Tonight we're going to talk to this couple, a very special couple, that they have a wonderful story. They overcame the situation. We have here with us Mr. Ignatius and Miss Apollonia. Good evening. How are you doing?
We're doing well.
How are you doing, Miss Apollonia?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you, Pastor?
Very good, very good. So today is everything okay? It's all right?
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, but unfortunately not always was that. Is that right, Miss Apollonia?
Yes, you're right.
Okay. So, Miss Apollonia, could you please share a little bit, because I believe you were also a victim of this sad reality that many women, they in this very moment, people that they are watching us now, that they are living this reality. So could you please share with us a little bit, how was that for you? Can you tell us a little bit, how was this for you?
Well, I can confirm, yes, I am a domestic violence survivor. I was a victim once, and I have been suffering from domestic violence for 8 years in my marriage. Well, what I'm going to say here, I just want to kind of like people to know that every case is different. It doesn't mean that because I have survived it, they have to follow what I have done. But yeah, it's advisable if you are safe to do so. Well, it was a constant of arguments. We constantly argued. That's how it started till it came to physical, and to the point where actually injury has occurred to me, and a gun was pointed at my head, threatening to be shot. And also there was a time when the police was involved, although in those days they never believed that it was happening. Today is a different story.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived in a constant fear, fearing of my husband. Just to hear his voice, it set off kind of like really strange feeling, and really just fearing. Not that I'm fearing for my life, because probably I still trusted him and I still loved him, but I just fear of what next, or what next he is going to find wrong that I have done, because I don't know when he can just kind of like set off and start questioning, or just become angry, generally just angry of something that he say I have done and I can't remember doing it. So it was a constant battle to remain safe and to remain loyal to him and not to offend him, which was impossible.
I can imagine how hard it was for you to try to find this balance, which was impossible. But as you said, so everything started after 8 years of your marriage. Is that right?
It actually started after 2 years of our marriage.
2 years. My gosh! So
Yes.
you are just married and you have to face a situation like that.
Yes.
He never showed any kind of signs, that he could have this kind of behavior later. It was something that surprised you. How was in the beginning, Miss Apollonia?
Well, at the beginning, he was a loving, I can say a loving partner. Well, I can say a loving boyfriend. When we started dating, he was all a woman can, a young woman can dream of, a man who takes care of you, a man who kind of like read you in a way, what you need, what you like.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of gift, a lot of praising, wanting to be with me all the time, and did everything for me, really. And he was a gentleman. That's the only way I can describe it. And we fell in love, and it was, we were inseparable. People used to actually admire us the way how we are. And our love life, people wanted to know the recipe. People wanted to find out how to live such a life. Only things to turn around, and they just become totally different, and we don't know what to do. He tend to say, whenever he does those kind of moment of his, questioning me, slapping me, or being just a generally abusive, he will say, well, I don't know, I really love you, but sometimes things just happen, and if you shouldn't have done A, B, C, D, I wouldn't have done this. So when we are happy, we are really happy, but it's those moments, and it's like a vicious circle whereby we have, actually, that's, they call it domestic violence cycle. You have a honeymoon time whereby everything is fine. Then he starts kind of like being grumpy or a bit demanding here and there to no answers. Then I start kind of like treading on eggshells, not to offend him, to make sure that I have done everything in a proper way. Then it doesn't matter what I do. Then he starts, just being abusive. It can be a hit, can be just a word, and or a threat. Then then it happens physically. Then after that, then he starts apologizing, blaming himself. Then I forgive him. Then we have gone back again to honeymoon. So those are the kind of signs, really, or the vicious circle that goes on in a home or a love life that is kind of like not a healthy love life. That's the signs. It never ends. It will always start with happiness, then abuse, then forgiveness. I mean, apologizing, forgiveness, go back to the honeymoon, and that's the way how it is. And normally, we women, or I myself, I kind of like hoping that one day he will just wake up and he will never do those kind of things, but it never ends. It just got worse.
So it was like you had, the both extremes. You had the extreme of happiness and joy, but also the other side, the extreme of violence and abuse. It was, I can imagine how hard was that for you. So today you can speak about that with more than confidence, but with property, especially because you are a professional of the field. You work with people that they are going through that. More than to give them just an advice, you can speak by experience of someone who overcame indeed the situation. So you were talking about a man that he was very abusive and very aggressive. And tell me, please, who is this man?
Well, this is my darling husband who is sitting beside me. Maybe people might think that is maybe my ex, and now I'm married to a different man who is a gentleman, who respects me.
But somehow this is what happened, eh? You had to divorce that old man to marry this new one.
Yeah.
Though physically they are the same.
Yeah.
Okay. But now let us talk to you, Mr. Agnesius, because for those who don't know you today, it's impossible to believe that the man that Miss Apollonia just described before is the same one that is by her side in this moment. We understand that you are not the same. And we are going to talk about this transformation very soon. But, let us continue talking about a little bit of your past. Tell us, please, Mr. Ignatius, how was that for you? Because imagine, after 2 years, you were supposed to be living, the honeymoon yet. And after 2 years, you were already manifesting this kind of behavior. If I'm not mistaken, you mentioned, Ms. Apollonia, that once he even pointed a gun against your head. Is that right? Mm-hmm. My gosh. So tell us, please, Mr. Agnesius, from your perspective. Of course, you are not defending that man that you were, but what was the reason why you had these reactions? What triggered this kind of behavior? Can you tell a little bit about it, please?
Yes, Pastor. It's actually one of a scenario in life where a man can have double a double standard life, a life that he can control, and a life that he has got no power to control at all. As for me, it was actually a life that came from the military life, because soldiers, they are kind of half animal, half human. And I believe together there was also some kind of darkness involved. But I would like to follow the military life, whereby if you are used to command, to give order, and if that mixed with anger of life, dissatisfactory, although love life I was supposed to be satisfied, there was a lot of issue within me, of which bottled together, the mixing match of that can turn very ugly. And in my human nature, once that power have left, I can become the normal person, the peace loving, the caring. But once that kind of nature come overpower me, I have got no control over it.
What was this kind of reaction you had, Mr. Ignatius? Can we say that it was a kind of insecurity as well? Because I'm saying that because there are men that they have this kind of reaction because they are not completely secure. They are not completely, they don't have self-confidence. So they are trying to somehow to as you said, this animal side. Sometimes they try to impose and say, okay, I'm the boss here, I am giving the orders or something. We know that there is a spiritual background, but in that moment, do you remember what kind of feelings you had in order to behave like that? Because Ms. Apollonia said before that just after these manifestations of aggressivity, you used to apologize and and everything. So how was that? Why this change so quick? From here to there, from north to south. How was that?
I think it's a point of a source that brought a lot of insecurity. And also in a sense that if someone is insecure, you try to control somebody to live according to what you want the person to live, without knowing that you are a human being, the person is a human being. So God by nature never gave us power to control a different entity, a different person and her personality. Now, when you try to mix that with a military kind of background, you think you can, but in reality, you can't. If you force yourself to do it, then that's when the violence come. That violence come that can also lead you into trouble together with the person who is a victim.
Okay, let us talk now about the transformation, because I believe this is the main part. I believe we are now talking to people that they are going through that. And once again, Miss Apollonia, as you said, you are a professional now in this field, helping people that they are in this situation. Though the report already said the number, but those who are going through this kind of physical abuses and even any kind of domestic abuse, how they can find help right now?
Okay, right now, Pastor, I can confirm that the situation is bad when it comes to domestic violence cases. Well, I can even say we are overwhelmed with referrals and cases from police, hospitals, every angle of life. Almost everybody's kind of like just screaming, we got a woman here, we got a woman here, we got a woman and children. Okay, the situation is this. If you are going through domestic violence, I know it's very, very difficult when you've been conditioned And sometimes it's a mixture of fear and love. But if you find yourself that you have picked up that courage and you really want to live, or you are fearing for your life, there is a National Domestic Violence Helpline that is 24/7, and that is for Women's Aid, and also Refuge. They got their own number. But the best thing you can do for yourself, if you think that you are in danger, call the police, call 999, because days have changed now. A lot of these actions from abusers, they have become a crime. So, and each and every police station, almost they've got a domestic violence department. They are well trained, they understand these things. And even the Prime Minister, when he issued the lockdown, he said, the only time you can leave your home, exercise, doing shopping, or freeing domestic violence. So don't be afraid, or don't be convinced that if you go out there, you're going to be arrested because you are leaving your home. Please contact the police. They will be able to safeguard you and your children to safety.
Great, excellent. But let us come back now to your story. So I heard that you after all this scenario of abuses and aggression, you divorced. Is that right? You reached the divorce, or was just a separation, temporary separation?
Well, I ran away from him.
Oh, you ran away? Wow.
Yes, I had some courage. I don't know where I pick up that strength, because I was really afraid of him, and I believe that as a trained military man, he will find me wherever I go. So to me, I was visible to him wherever, even if I'm behind the walls, I believe he can see me. Mm-hmm. But something came into my mind, and I decided, okay, I have to leave. And I left, but at the airport, he made me to be arrested, accusing me of kidnapping the children without telling him. And then I was arrested. He was given 24 hours to make a case against me, which he did not. Then I left. Okay. Then he decided to come to the church and give his life to God, because now the penny have dropped that I'm gone. He have realized his mistakes. So, and that's when he starts speaking to me about giving our love life a second life, or a second chance. And if we can come back, I can come back so that we can speak to somebody. Because sometimes making your own decisions and trying to heal your own wounds sometimes is not just possible. I can say, even for my healing, I understand that it should have taken a long, long time, because I was really, really angry. But with the word of God, with the Spirit of God, that I have to kind of like give my life and took upon the word of God and meditate on it and ask God to heal me. That made my journey of healing very, very, very fast, whereby I was able to talk about these issues without breaking down. And today, I can say that also had helped me in my work, because I am not an angry woman towards men. I actually see them as victims too, to whatever is happening within them. It can be mental health problems. It can be really they're just controlling people, not understanding that you can't control somebody else, as my husband said. So I see them as people who need help. But how do they get help? Well, they can only get help if they are willing to accept that help, like how he did, so to it that, yes, he needed help. That's why I am encouraging anyone, if you are going through domestic violence, please don't take this story as an example for you to stick around. But if your partner is willing to make a U-turn and kind of like sweep the new road together with you, then there you are safe to do so. So he have to be willing. You also have to be willing to be helped if you are a woman also who is abusing a man, because there are also women who abuse men, so that things can work. Otherwise, everybody need to be safeguarded and remain safe. But don't
And
say, because God is there, everything will work out. God cannot force us to change, but we have to meet him halfway.
yes, and this is what you, Miss Apollonia, I believe this is what you've done, because before you accept him back, he had to prove that he was different, not only, with the same regret that he had before, but he had to prove that he was different indeed. And after this transformation, after you were sure of, of his transformation, this is, I believe, correct me if I'm mistaken, but I believe this is what, gave you the confidence to say, okay, so we can try again. So is that right?
Yeah, that's right, because he was a very, very proud man. He will never agree to talk to anyone about his love life.
Mm-hmm.
To him, counselors, anyone who's giving support, they are sad people. To him, they are sad people. They can't even sort out their own life. How can they sort out mine? So for him to say, okay, let's go for help, I believe that, yes, he is really wanting to be helped, because that's something he will never do.
I said today would be a special program. That's why, it's so amazing. We're investing, a bit of time talking to this blessed couple. But finally, now, Mr. Agnesius, now we need to know, how was your transformation? Because your wife said that you were a very proud man. And I can imagine, as you said, with this military background, trained, you had that, a kind of formation, as we know. We men, we have, we have problem with pride, naturally. This is unfortunately, this is our nature. But imagine someone like you, that you came from the army, trained, all the discipline there, that those who served in the army, they know, how hard is the discipline, how severe is the discipline. Imagine you, I can imagine you having to recognize, having to step down and say, okay, I need help. How was that for you, Mr. Agnesius?
It's very hard, more than the word can sound, because as a military person, you were trained to be cold. You were trained to take all pains. You were also trained to pretend, to lie. You were trained to be actually live, putting up a facade, because as an officer, that's what you're supposed to be, so that when your soldiers and your colleague alike look at you, they see something solid that cannot be changed or moved. Now, that together brought that kind of pride, that kind of sad person suffering in isolation, pretending that everything is fine while everything is not fine.
And how was for you to recognize and say, okay, I need help? And when you start, attending, the services in the UCKG Help Center, how was that? Do you remember the first day you came in these doors?
Yes.
How was that for you?
There has always been a prayer in isolation. Even before I met the UCKG, there's always that kind of subtle prayer asking God, if you are there, can you take me to a certain place where I can find peace? And it took me, I think, around 10 years for me to realize that God have actually answered that subtle cold prayer. Because when my wife found the city news on the floor, when she was going to work the day when we spent the whole night fighting, then when she showed me that newspaper, I did abuse her verbally and so on. But once I entered the church, the Spirit of God was there. God was waiting for me there. Regardless of this military thing, the Creator, my inner child realized that I came to the house of my Creator. Something was completely different. It was touching my soul. And I realized that this is not just a church like any other church. This is a place where I can find God. And when the men of God start giving the message, I took those message, those hard, it's like they were reading from my life. And I remember the bishop now who spoke to me saying that, look, Ignatius, you said you are a man, you are a military man, but let me tell you something, my big brother, because he was a young, more or less like my young brother. He said, let me tell you something, my big brother, only coward who beat up women. That touched me because no man
Wow.
ever has spoken to me like that before.
I can imagine you hearing that. My gosh, I believe it touched you deep down in your soul to break your pride indeed. Wow. So finally, look at how amazing. So in a church, you heard that. Not even friends, not even family members, but in a church, God had to use a man of God to say that. Wow. Wow. And after that, when you heard that,
it blew my mind. And I remember until today, I start sweating. I'm like, wow, this young man has courage. Then the Spirit of God was speaking to me, and he actually convicted me that, yes, this young man here can help you. If you can only let go of your pride, he is my servant. I can use him to change your life.
And how was this process since you started, then you finally had the assurance that you were a new man, that you were really ready to have, to be a husband indeed. How was this process for you, Mr. Ignatius?
The process, Pastor, was very hard. It was very hard, but I was determined that I didn't care about the world. I literally turned my back on the world. I turned my back on the so-called friend. I turned my back on anything else that on planet Earth. And I told my God, the prayer that I remember I have been doing until today is this: my God, if you're real, like I believe, like these young men are telling me, and I can sense you in my spirit, you either change my life or take my life.
So I can imagine now, Miss Apollonia, but let me just confirm something. So during this time that you were seeking for yourself, Mr. Agnesius, during this time you were separated, is that right?
Yes.
You were not
Pastor.
together.
Mm-hmm.
So how was for you, Miss Apollonia, afterwards, meeting this man that for sure was different from your first husband? Let us put this way.
Well,
how was that?
Not even meeting him, actually, him calling me.
Okay.
When he called me, because I was in Namibia and he was here in UK. Him calling me, his voice is totally different. Wow. And he only said few words. He said, he asked me if I'm willing to come back. Then I said, why are you asking me? Then he said, because I want us to work in our marriage. Then I said, He said, yes, I have been to church. I have spoken to the pastor. I have told them the truth. And I need you to join me in this battle.
I believe it was hard for you to believe that, because it was not the first time that you heard that.
Yeah, but I was just like, it's too good to be true.
Yeah.
It's too good to be true. In my heart, actually, I had this thought or the scenario of him wanting me to come back, then he will kill me. Then that's it, because he have threatened many times to kill me. And him being a military man who had fought in war, who have killed people, it's not hard for him to kill me because now he have seen that, okay, I'm in business. I'm no longer interested in this abusive relationship. So probably that's the end. So I came back, but actually I never trusted him. I left the children behind.
Oh,
Then I
really?
left. Yes, I left the children behind, and I left actually a statement that I have asked my friend, if she did not hear from me, she should take it to the police.
Wow.
Yeah, because
So
I was afraid.
you had reasons. You had reasons
Yeah.
to be afraid. My gosh. So when you came back to UK and when you met him, what was the greatest difference you could notice in him?
Well, he was calm. He was calm, really calm. He did not ask me many questions as usual. He could have asked me the flight, who have I spoken to in the plane, and even back home where I have been, who I have spoken to, and all those, all those intruding questions you can imagine. And sometimes you don't even have. I mean, you can't just believe that somebody's asking you such questions. No, he did not. He did not ask me anything. But unfortunately, when I arrived here, I think within a few days, I got sick because I was just scared. I was scared so much that I could not sleep. So I had this massive headache, and I know it's from lack of sleeping. So I ended up in hospital, literally in hospital, really, because I was really afraid. I never felt so safe around him. I could not sleep because I was scared. But he
Wow.
was calm, and he even said, okay, fine, it's time we go and speak to the pastor, both of us. Then, yeah, we went. After I left the hospital, we went to speak to the pastor. And still, in fact, it was the bishop. The bishop still told him the same thing. He said, in front of me, he said, if he ever touch you, call the police.
So you received this advice in church as well?
Yes, he said, if he ever touch you, call the police, because this is not only wrong in front of God, it's wrong. It's also wrong. No, he said if it's not only wrong in front of us human being, it's also wrong in front of God. So if he touch you, call the police, because he said if you start beating up your partner, that's supposed to be your other half, it's like you are harming yourself. In God's eyes, actually, you become an animal. You are no longer a human. That's what he told him. And he asked him, do you have sons? He said, yes. He said, so when your sons grow up, if they start hitting their women, what are you going to tell them? What advice are you going to give them? He had no answer.
Wow. And how was for you to once again trust him, to rebuild, the trust, to heal the wounds, and finally to reach this point, being together? Because I can imagine those who are watching us now, those who are seeing you now together like you are, they are thinking, no, how is that possible? They are not the same, probably she's speaking about somebody else. Probably they are speaking about a different story, but not their story. How was for you, Miss Apollonia, especially for you? Because I believe you have to work in yourself as well in order to believe again in your husband. And how was this process for you?
Well, you're not the first person to ask me that question. Whenever I give my testimony to anyone, especially when I'm inviting them to, to the house of God, they always ask me, okay, where's he now? Then I say, we are still married. They say, what? Yes. Okay. To cut this long story short, I was very angry. I was very angry, but I saw change, a dramatic change. And I mean change that is not questionable. My husband used to search my bag top to bottom. My husband used to read my letters. The phone bill comes, he will go through it with a fine tooth comb. Any phone I have called more than 5 minutes, I have to explain myself. You can only imagine the rest. It was a very, very difficult life. And my husband stopped, like in one day, he just woke up and he left me alone. And I kind of felt neglected, because I was used to him all over me, asking questions here and there. Then I was like, what happened? What happened? Then I saw him, he became happy. He doesn't give me this look again, like, you dare not. Because I will be sitting somewhere with him, and it's like I have done something wrong, and I will be questioning, what did I do? Because the look he will give me is like a child who has been naughty. All that stopped. He started treating me with respect. And I became more angry because he had this smile in his face. I'm like, what is he smiling about? Why is he happy when he had put me through all this? Then one day, in the time of I've been in the church now for almost 2 years, I saw myself left behind. And when the preaching goes on, literally I saw myself like I am dwelling in a grudge that I'm refusing to acknowledge. But actually I was having a grudge.
Let me just interrupt you because this is very important. So you remained at church for 2 years, living with your husband again. And after this, and during these 2 years, I believe you could see that he was already transformed, changed.
Yeah.
But he's still holding grudges against him.
He even became an assistant. That time, I remember he was a collaborator that time. And then he was even anointed. He became an assistant. And that's when the penny dropped.
Things changed now. My gosh. Okay.
I remember Bishop Renato saying, you have to forgive for God to forgive you. And if you want the Holy Spirit, you can have a grudge. You have to forget about all those. And I was like, how can I forget about all that as if I'm the one who was in the wrong? I never hit anyone. He hit me. Okay. So that was really kind of like I wanted to go up to him and just question him. Do you really understand what you are preaching? You are telling me to forgive a man who have abused me for more than 8 years. All right. Then I understood now that actually my salvation is more important more than me being angry towards him. And again, I had nothing to be angry about anymore because there was nothing happening anymore. So I looked really like somebody who is lost, because when somebody's not giving you a reason to fight him, that's exactly how I felt like I need to fight, but there's nothing to fight for. Okay. Then
basically you have to fight alone.
Yes. God spoke to me. God spoke to me and said, well, do you want a man who is controlling you, or you want a man who is happy? Okay. Then definitely I wanted a man who is happy. Then the question was, what do you want? An apology? Do you prefer a slap or an apology? Or a happy man? Those questions. Okay. Definitely, I don't want a slap. I don't want a man who is controlling me. I want a happy man. Okay, then those two are not important. Move on with the happy man. So I move on with the happy husband. Then I have to kind of like pray for myself to really see him who he is as a changed man. Because the way how I used to see it is good to be true for him to be really changed, happy, not asking me those questions. Maybe it was a trap, all those kind of like little thoughts within my head that actually lying to me. And I know actually that's somebody else who is talking to me. It's not true. So I have now to fight that. And I became a new person too towards him. And both of us, we became assistants. We start helping others. And today, I'm not only helping others spiritually, I'm actually helping out there also for those who are going through domestic violence and sexual violence.
So tell me, please.
With God beside me, actually, he makes my work very, very easy.
I can imagine, because now you have the spirit of creation inside of you. How can you be unhappy? So, this is so amazing because we can see Mr. Ignatius and Miss Apollonia. And by the way, I'm sorry to hold you, till this time, but this is is necessary, especially for those that they are watching us now. They have to understand that this is the correct way to restore any relationship. First, you have to work in yourself. This is a classical mistake of many people. They come, and their main goal, the main target is that I want to restore my marriage. And they will never be able to achieve that. No, because first they have to work in themselves. Yeah. This is what happened to you, both of you. Because first you, Mr. Agnesius, had to work in yourself, and separately you, Miss Apollonia, had to work in yourself as well. And then when both of you received the spirit of love, the author of love, so finally you'll be able to be together and find the true love. That's amazing. That's amazing.
The medicine is just for you actually to, I can say, the best solution. Stop looking at the other person. It doesn't matter what they have done in your life. Stop looking at them. Pretend like let me say you got 2 track of, let me say in the stadium, you are running, both of you. Those 2 track. There's nothing in between of you. You are both running towards the same goal. Forget about the other person. Concentrate on yourself. Run like you are not running a race with anyone. And sort yourself out. Once you sort yourself out, the other person will see that you are now a new person. Don't try to force them to see that you are a changed person, and don't try to force them to change, because you go to prayer, you are making a chain of prayer for your marriage or anything, whatever you are doing, do it actually like you are not living with anyone, and don't even make them to see that you are doing so. Do it with God, not with them.
And this is what we are teaching every Thursday on the love therapy, in the love therapy. People that they have to understand that they have first to work in themselves. Otherwise, all they will have is just the frustration to be fighting for someone that will never change. As you said, and this is so true, we cannot change people. We can just change ourselves. Mr. Agnesius, what you can say now, what you can say especially for those who are watching us, because I believe you were the one that you had to overcome, these inner issues you had as well. And you were the one who had to change more. Actually, both of you have to change a lot. Otherwise, we won't be here. But what can you say, for example, to the men that are watching us now, and maybe they are being the abusers? What you can say to them now?
It's more or less like my wife said, that because from the beginning, when I started, I used to tell God, that young lady lack respect. You need to teach him to kind of respect me, without knowing actually that God is actually telling me that no, I don't work through third party. I want to work with you, and the first person I want to change is you. So I start looking into my inside, looking at my own mistake, accepting that I'm wrong, hating the wrong things that I'm doing, that I used to do, and asking God for the strength where I know that I'm always failing. And I have to ask with sincerity.
This is it. So how's your marriage today, Miss Apollonia?
We are happy. We are happy. We are happy. We talk about these things now like something we have watched in movies.
Better than movies.
Yes.
Better than movies, Pastor. Only if we knew at the beginning.
Yeah.
That this is it. And how is it for you now, Mr. Agnesius, to see your family, reunited once again, to have your wife again, and more than that, to live a different reality in your life?
Pastor, I'm fulfilled. Sometimes you have things that you don't have, but as long as that link in God is solid, you don't see this problem, you don't see these family issues, you don't see these overpowering burdens. All you have to know is I have my knees. So once I have my knees, I have to rely on them to go to my knees wherever I have a need, wherever a situation arises, whether in me, my wife, my children, and it's always work, never fail. The altar never fails. I depend on the altar.
This is it. Mr. Ignatius, Miss Apollonia, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I'm sure that many people, they were blessed by this testimony. Thank you so much. May God bless you.
Nice having us.
The Love Talk Show on Liberty Radio.